Okay, so the title of this video is going to sound a little odd to all of you anime fans out there, especially if you are familiar with the anime Yokai Watch, as you probably have a set image in your mind regarding the term yokai. But what makes this term particularly relevant, especially when talking about the Beldam, is the fact that it can be applied to an entire pantheon of different creatures. While some yokai may be tied to a particular unexplained phenomenon, such as noises in the house at night or random cuts appearing on a person's body, others are explained as the spirits of humans, or humans themselves who have gone through a transformation. Also, the distinction between yokai and kami, or gods, throughout most of Japanese history has been fairly ill-defined, as creatures like, say, the kappa could be venerated and worshipped in rural communities, which rely on water for irrigation, but feared in an urban setting. Now, I actually got the idea to do this video from the fangirl who made a video about how Kubo's aunt from Kubo and the Two Strings may be related to the Beldam, which made me think, isn't there a yokai who is also supposed to have come from the moon? As well as a giant spider and another yokai who steals children? Maybe if Kubo's aunt did survive, she ended up stuck on Earth and started to steal the powers of Japan's resident yokai, or was responsible for the genesis of some of the yokai legends herself. Or maybe I think yokai are just cool and wanted a reason to talk about them on YouTube. Either way, this is going to be fun. The first yokai which comes to mind when thinking about the Beldam, or the movie version at least, is the Tsuchigumo, or Earth Spider, which, similar to the Beldam, is a gigantic spider that eats people. Unlike the Beldam, however, the Tsuchigumo is not a spider-human hybrid, and they do not typically have the ability to take on human form. However, Tsuchigumo was originally a term used to refer to the indigenous people of Japan. Unfortunately, the term Tsuchigumo was intended to be an insult aimed at the physical appearance of Japan's indigenous people, comparing them to spiders with short bodies and long legs. In an attempt to backtrack from that horrible thought, after the term Tsuchigumo made the change from racial slur to full-fledged yokai, many of the stories depicting the creature stated that it liked to eat its prey whole, including their skulls, which apparently stayed in the creature's stomach. While we know that the Beldam abducted at least 3 other children, we never see any evidence of their physical remains, because maybe they're still in the Beldam's stomach. I would also like to take this opportunity to praise the character design used for the Beldam in the Coraline animated film. While the movie's version of the Beldam clearly differs from her book counterpart, being that in the book, the Beldam was described as a slightly taller woman with long claw-like hands and buttons for eyes, the movie version of the character gets extra creepy points for its use of the Uncanny Valley principle. The Uncanny Valley, for those of you who don't know, which to be honest is probably not a lot of you, is a term that was originally developed while working with robots, as it was discovered that people were unnerved by robots that resembled humans in all but the smallest details. Or, to put it more plainly, something that is almost but not quite human evokes disgust. In the Coraline movie, this theory is put to the test as the initial appearance of the Beldam, and in fact all the characters that inhabit her world, look human enough except for their button eyes, which make them seem familiar yet unnervingly unfamiliar at the same time. The Beldam's true appearance, as I've already said, plays off the commonly held fear of spiders, but may also have a deeper meaning. As Michael Dillon Foster states in the Book of Yokai, because insects and snakes have a body type that is so foreign to humans, with their excess and lack of legs, we as a species cannot help but be a little bit grossed out by them. So basically, Coraline's mother goes from being a little bit eerie to full-on nightmare-inducing. I also have to agree with what the Dom said, in that if I had met the Beldam looking like she does in the book, I would have probably run away screaming or emptied a magazine of bullets into her if I happened to have a gun handy. While the Tsuchigumo may share some similarities with the Beldam, she also shares characteristics with many other female yokai, including the Ubume or birthing woman. The Ubume is believed to be the spirit of a woman who died in childbirth, and not unlike the Beldam, she's often tied to the disappearance of children, which in some stories she takes back with her to her grave. The Ubume is just one of a handful of yokai that are said to have derived from the spirit of a once living woman, as it was apparently fairly common for women through pain or tragedy to be transformed into a yokai. Next, we have the yokai that first inspired me to make this video, the Yuki-onna, a name which can be translated as Snow Woman. Like most of our yokai brethren, the origin of the Yuki-onna tends to change from region to region. While in some areas she is described as an ominous figure who brings about bad luck or death, in other tales she comes across as sad or whimsical. She's been described as the spirit of the snow, as a woman who died in the snow, and even in Yamagata Prefecture, as a moon princess who was exiled from the sky world and who descends dancing along with the snow. And that is it honestly, as this yokai actually bears no real similarities to the Beldam, other than the fact that they might both be from the moon. The Beldam's ability to create alternate dimensions, or shift the perceptions of humans, is yet another ability that is often attributed to yokai, specifically foxes and tengu or raccoon dogs. The illusions that these creatures create are apparently so strong that they can change a person's perceptions of both space and time. One story, for instance, records the tale of a man named Kaya no Yoshifuji, who, while walking in the woods one night, happens upon a beautiful young woman. Being that his wife was out of town, Yoshifuji decides to accompany the young woman back to her home, an attractive mansion filled with servants, and sleeps with her that very night. As time goes by, Yoshifuji becomes so infatuated with the young woman that he completely forgets about his wife and children. Meanwhile, Yoshifuji's wife returns from the capital to find that her husband has disappeared, and a search ensues. After 13 days of searching, however, the family begins to lose hope. That is until a friend and neighbor of the family discovers a nest of foxes living underneath the family storehouse. After the foxes are sent fleeing, a strange monkey-like creature emerges from the small space underneath the storehouse. While the family are initially frightened of the strange creature, they eventually come to discover that it is in fact an incredibly dirty Yoshifuji, who had been living underneath the storehouse. Though only 13 days had passed since his disappearance, Yoshifuji, while under the fox's spell, believed that he had been living for years in a beautiful mansion with his new family. While incredibly embarrassed, Yoshifuji survived his marriage with the fox, and lived on in good health for another decade afterward. Keep in mind that this story takes place during the 9th century, where people did not live quite as long as they do now, so this is in fact supposed to be a kind of happy ending. This story in particular seems to share a few elements in common with Coraline, specifically that both focus on an individual that has been whisked away to a world of pleasure that ultimately turned out to be false and more than a little bit terrifying. The fox's powers also seem to resemble the Beldam's abilities, as she was able to keep Yoshifuji happy and under her spell for 13 days without him catching on. While it is evident from the story that Yoshifuji was not transported to an alternate dimension like Coraline, ultimately we are never given a clear-cut explanation regarding how the Beldam's powers work. So maybe the Beldam's world really is all in Coraline's head. Or not. I'll let you guys be the judge. The last thing I want to talk about actually has nothing to do with the Beldam at all, as I will instead be talking about another yokai candidate. The mysterious black cat who accompanies Coraline bears some striking similarities with the Bakaneko, or monster cat, often depicted in Japanese folklore. According to legend, in certain parts of Japan, it was said that a cat who was kept as a pet for a certain number of years, the actual amount varied from place to place, would kill its master or more commonly turn into a Bakaneko. While they look just like regular cats, Bakaneko can perform a number of unusual feats, including speaking in human voice, not unlike another mysterious cat we know. While it is also tempting to identify the black cat in Coraline as a witch familiar, being that the story seems to derive some of its elements from North American witch culture, we know from what the cat tells us that he has a personal relationship with the Beldam which must go back a number of years. Being that age is an important factor in the creation of a Bakaneko, and that the cat chooses to help Coraline as opposed to hinder her pursuits, I think it is completely possible that our feline friend was the Beldam's cat who became a Bakaneko after so many years in service to her. Okay, so that was my explanation on why the Beldam is actually a yokai. Well, kinda, sorta. Honestly, yokai are really just fun to talk about, and I had a blast finding all the connections between the Beldam and the Japanese yokai pantheon. Most of the research for this video was pulled from the Book of Yokai by Michael Dillon Foster, so if you want to learn more about the fascinating world of Japanese yokai, I would highly suggest giving it a read. Or you can try finding his earlier book, Pandemonium on Parade. Well, this is Silver Jade saying thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.